Hey everybody, welcome to J Stern Designs and welcome to Embroidery Sundays. I'm starting a new series of embroidery tutorials and I'm going to kick it off with an unboxing and first impression of the Brother PRS 100 Persona Embroidery Machine. I just want to mention a few things before we get going about purchasing sewing equipment. It's really important to buy your sewing equipment from a dealer that you trust and that will be there to help you if you need help. So that's why I drove all the way to New Jersey, because I know and trust the people who work there, and I know if I have trouble, even though it might be a little bit of a drive for me to get there, I know I'll be taken care of. And it's funny because I know some of you watching are from all parts of the country or even in locations around the world. And here in New England, we think that, if we have to drive more than an hour, that's a long time. So I know some of you watching may not have a sewing machine dealer near you or even within driving distance. So I feel for you there. Do your best and find, the best situation where you can get to a dealer that can help you. And just use myself as an example. I have a 2.5 hour drive to get there if I need help. But I bought a quality embroidery machine and I think it's going to work wonderfully. And, hopefully I'll only have to drop it by, once a year for service. But the bottom line is, pick your dealer carefully. If you are lucky enough to live in the, tri-state area, definitely go check out the wonderful people at Sew Jersey. They will help you pick out the right piece of equipment. When considering my personal embroidery needs, I decided instead of going with a top of the line or, higher end of the line machine that also had all of the sewing features, I was just going to buy an embroidery only machine because I have a sewing machine that I love to sew on. And then the cool thing is, if I'm embroidering and it's a design that takes some time, I could be sewing on my sewing machine while this machine is embroidering. So that's why I chose an embroidery only machine. You can see here, this is the machine. It's quite large and the box was gigantic, so I couldn't unbox it in a way where I could show you how to do that. So I just want to give you some pointers about unboxing this machine, because when I opened the top of the box, there was a styrofoam tray that had all of or many of the little accessories and some hoops and the instruction manual. So I took those out and then I looked at the lid of the box. It's very important. There are instructions on the lid or on the top flap of this box. And there are some white plastic, they look like little plastic like tabs along the bottom of the machine. There's at least one on each side. What you do is you reach in and you pinch the inner part and it comes out. And then that allows you to slide the whole sides of the box up and off the machine. Because I was thinking to myself, how am I going to get this gigantic styrofoam encased machine out of the box? And so basically you lift the box off of the styrofoam. And then there's two halves to the styrofoam. Those pull away sideways. So you just pull those away and then it reveals the machine that you can then lift and carry and put in position. Now, I do want to say this machine weighs, I think the instruction manual said 68 pounds, so it's pretty hefty. And if you follow along with me, you probably have seen me shuffling machines when I'm doing tutorials. So like if I'm using my sewing machine, I have that, then I put that away, I bring my serger. Well, I realized right out of the gate with this machine, I wasn't going to be able to pick it up and put it down. So I also got the stand that goes with it. And you can see it's very easy to move around, so I will be able to roll it in and out of a working position. fairly easily. So the first thing I want to do is let me show you the instruction manual that came with the stand. All right, so you can see that the instruction manual is basically a one-sheet piece of paper, and it has all the diagrams to put the pieces together. And it's fairly heavy, so again, you're going to need help setting this up. But what I want to point out to you is, if you look at this first diagram here, to put the, basically what you're going to do is you're going to put the shelves together with the sides. And the sides are piece A, and then the shelves are B and C. Now, a lot of times when I work with putting together something that has lettered steps, the letters are stickers on the parts. Well, in this case, there were no letters stuck on the parts. I had to look for some identifying marks to figure out which piece was which. I will tell you that the sides are the pieces that have a metal sort of, it's like a grid, and there's holes in it. And the reason why there's holes in the grid is because you can then use these hooks. You know, they fit on the side to hang equipment that goes with the machine. So the sides look like a metal grid. But here's the thing about the two shelves. They look identical except for one important part. What you want to do is you want to identify the holes on the front and back edge of part C. Okay, and what you're looking for is there are sort of built-in nuts that are like static that you screw the casters and the little adjustable feet into. When I set my stand up, I put B at the bottom and I put C in the middle for shelving. And then when I went to put the casters on, I couldn't figure out how to screw them in because the holes were too big. So just check out the, you know, the front and back. There's little indentations along the ridges of the front and back of those stands. I think you can see it here. These little, I'm talking about these little indentations. Look for those. Both B and C have those indentations, but then what you want to do is you want to look for the static nuts that are sort of built into the inside edges of the holes so you can screw in the casters and the feet. So that was the one sticking point that I had putting together this table. The rest of it was very easy. I had no trouble putting anything else together. And actually, the cool thing about getting the stand is it comes with the hoop hat frame to sort of put your the hoop hat embroidery frame on this stand. It comes with it. So that's going to be very convenient because guess what? I got the hoop hat embroidery hoop. So I'm excited about that. I haven't assembled that yet, but you can see here that this stand holds your hoop so you can hoop your hats without fussing around with something to attach it to. So I thought that was very convenient. Another thing is there are two brackets that you install after the machine is put on, and I haven't done that yet either. But look for this big wrench. This is how you tighten those big nuts on the casters and on the feet, and they're adjustable so you can level the machine after you get it on. So this comes with it. This is my husband's Phillips screwdriver, and you need this to tighten all of the little screws. So you get a whole bag of these little screws. You can see I have some left because I haven't finished putting it together yet, but these screws need this Phillips head screwdriver. So this is really the only piece of equipment you need to set it up. It took me a while to put it together, and most of my agita was realizing I had put my shelves on wrong. So I just wanted to mention that and show you the instructions that come with the stand. And you can see what the stand looks like. I'll show it to you better once I show you the machine. So there's that. Then I want to talk about the instruction manual for a minute. Now, normally I am not a big reader of instruction manuals because I just want to get in there and get it going. So if you're that kind of girl or boy like me, where you just don't want to read the instruction manual, I'm going to point out a few things in the manual that are super important. And you can see I've already put tabs around on pages that are important. I'm super happy I leafed through the entire instruction manual, because on page 168 and 169, there are instructions for oiling the machine. Now, I've never oiled a sewing machine before. I've oiled my serger in the places that needs oil, but I've never oiled a sewing machine. I didn't even know that was a thing. But for this machine, it is a thing. So I just want to point out to you, it's important to oil the bobbin case. It's on the bobbin case housing. So I will be showing you how to do that later. And then you do that every day. Now that really kind of surprised me. All right, so the race needs to be oiled every day. I don't know if I'm going to stick to that. I will try to remember it. Maybe I'll oil it every time before every use. And then they tell you to oil there's a little felt pad on the needle bar washer, and they ask you to oil that every 40 to 50 hours of embroidery. So that's an important thing, because especially it said to oil it before you start embroidering for the first time. So I'm really happy that I noticed that before I turned it on and started embroidering. So that's important. And then just to give you a lay of the land, I'm going to be doing a series of videos on this instruction manual. So I'm not going to be talking about everything in here today. But I do want to say that I think it's important to, I tabbed how to clean around the needle plate, the whole maintenance section. I've tabbed that. I tabbed the basic settings and help chapter. And then there is a section that tells you which embroidery frame goes with which embroidery hoop. That's a new thing for me, because normally on a home embroidery machine that's a combination sewing and embroidery machine, there's one place to attach the hoop and you're good to go. So there are two different embroidery frame holders to attach the hoops to. And actually, I think they call the hoops embroidery frames. So I might be using those interchangeably, but there is a embroidery frame holder that you snap the actual embroidery frame or hoop into. So I tabbed that page so I would have it. And then I tabbed the edit screen page just for reference. So when I start working with the machine, I won't have to find that page just until I learn how to use this machine. I'm going to show you all the parts and pieces today, as well as the setup. This is so exciting. All right, so let's see here. I'm going to take this off. Let me just clip this. Okay. All right, so I'm going to just take off all this tape. I'm going to go over here, I'm going to get this tape off. All right, so I've got that tape off. I'm going to untape this tape right here that's holding some cardboard on the embroidery arm here. Let me get this off. I think it helps if you cut the tape and then peel it off. It does come off, this blue tape does come off nicely. There's no like sticky residue. All right, so that's all nice and free. Now there's some styrofoam underneath the needle bar. Let me get that off. Okay, I'm gonna slide this right out. All right, so let me just investigate and make sure I've taken off all the packaging. I think I have. Okay, before I show you all of the parts and pieces and where things are on this machine, I'm going to assemble this piece. Okay, this is the thread guide assembly, and the reason why I want to attach this first is because like 1 through 6 in the parts and pieces are on here. So let's go ahead and assemble this first. All right, so the cool thing is this machine comes with several screwdrivers, including the Phillips head screwdriver that's the right size for this. So I am literally going to take out the screws at the base of this, and I'm just going to set them down on my table here. Okay, so I remove the screws, then I'm going to put this groove into the bar like this. And the nice thing is it stays put for me without having to hold it. So on either side, there are holes to put those screws in. So let me do this side first. So I'm just going to stick this screw in this hole right here. I mean, there's a little bit of play, so you have to adjust the stand or the guide until it goes. So I'm just going to put that in lightly. Then on this side of the machine, there is a second hole. So let me go ahead and put this one in. And if I line up my screwdriver, I can just screw that right in. Okay, so I'm screwing that in, and now I'm going to tighten them down. Now that they're both in there, I'm going to tighten them. All right, so this is now secure. Okay, so I've attached that, so yay. Okay, before I show you how to install the embroidery frame holder, I want to show you the hoops that come with the machine as well as the 2 different holders. So I know for my embroidery needs, at least to get started, I'm going to be using the 4 by 4 inch or 100 by 100 millimeter hoop and the 200 by 200 millimeter hoop, which is, you know, an 1/8 inch shy of an 8-inch square. Okay, those are going to be my popular hoops. So knowing that, I'm going to show you how to install this, the embroidery frame holder. Okay, so that's what I'm going to show you. But if you do a lot of small scale embroideries or monograms or names on shirts, this machine comes with a second embroidery frame holder, embroidery frame holder E, and you use it with these little small hoops, which I think are very, very cool, and I know I will find a use for them. But the bottom line is, you know, it's important to work with the hoop that's, you know, as close to the embroidery design as you can get. And the fact that I have all these little small choices are going to be perfect for when I'm working with mini designs. So get ready for that in our future. But for now, I'm going to put away E and all of the E hoops, and I'm going to show you how to install the embroidery frame holder A. Now the first step in that process, I think the easiest place for me to show you is right here. You're going to take these screws off. These are little thumb screws. Okay, so I'm going to take these off, and then we're going to go to the machine, and I'm going to show you how to install this. This is the frame mounting plate, and you can see there are 2 pins standing up on it. That's where you see the frame holder by putting those pins in the 2 holes, okay, that line up with the pins. There's a second hole in next to each one, and that's where you put those thumb screws back. So after I've got the frame holder on the pins, I am just going to put the screws back in to these holes, and I'm just going to put them in loosely till I get them both in, like this. Okay, so you can see here is, this screw is tightened down. And then if I turn my machine around, you can see from the other side, I'm just going to go ahead and tighten this screw. So righty-tighty. Okay, so now the frame holder A is attached to the machine. Okay, so now that's all set. All right, so the next thing I'm going to go over are all the parts and pieces, and I want to start with the thread guide assembly. There are a bunch of different holes up here and different things. I just want to explain what they all are. And I'm going to be working on page 14, which has the list of everything. So number 1 is the bobbin pre-tension disc, and that is this little guy back here. Okay, and I think I can turn my machine around so you can see it. Okay, so there's a little tension disc right there. That's the first piece. Okay, and then there's thread guide hole, and that's the ones that are sticking off to the side. So if I turn it back to the front, there's 4 of them. So there's one here, there's one here, there's one here, and there's one here. There are 4 spool pins for 4 spools of thread. So there's 4 of those. Then number 3 is the thread cutter holder. This is actually a thread cutter, and you can cut your thread when changing upper thread. Also, you can hold the thread there when you're not using it. So that's kind of cool, and I'll show you how to use that when we do the embroidery tutorial next week. But basically, these are thread cutters and thread holders, which is cool. All right, number 4 is the front hole in the thread guide. Okay, and that's this one right here. And you notice there's only one of these, so I'm assuming this is where the thread goes down into the machine for the color you're using. There are 4 spaces for thread on this Persona PRS 100, but you're only using one at a time. It's got 1 needle. So that's the front thread guide to bring the thread down to the machine. And then number 5 is the thread guide hole. You place the thread from back to front through the hole right here when you're winding a bobbin or threading the machine. Okay, so there are a lot of holes here, and we will be going over those during the embroidery tutorial next week, but I just want to point them all out. And then down below that, number 7 is the spool pin, and again, there's 4 of them because you can set up 4 threads here. And then number 8 is the spool stand, which is this whole thing. Let me turn so you can see. Then the thread guide number 9 is over here. I'm just going to show you from the side. It's this guy right here. Okay, so let me just show you. So basically it's going to go from the front threads guide above down to this thread guide right here. And then number 10 is the bobbin winder seat. So number 10 is over here. I have to turn the machine so you can see it. This is the bobbin winder seat. And then the number 11 is the bobbin winder switch. And that's this little guy right here. So you pivot it towards the bobbin winder seat to engage it. Okay, so that's that. Number 12 is the upper thread guide pre-tension knob, and that's this little guy right here. Okay, and I will be getting into how to use that during the embroidery tutorial. 13 is the thread tension knob, so you can adjust your tension right here on the top of the machine. Okay, so this is the thread tension knob. I'm not going to turn it too much until I find out more about that. And then number 14 is the upper thread guide. And that would be this little guy right here. Okay, and again, we're going to be threading that up next week. Number 16 is the carriage, and that's what we attached the frame holder A to. So that's this part here. Turn it to the side so you can see it from the side view. Okay, it's right here. This moves. That's what moves the embroidery frame around. And then we have the lower thread guide, number 17. I don't know if you can see it. It's literally a hole that goes right through this plastic. So you thread your thread through there and it comes down under here. So there's a hole right here and the thread comes out here. That's the lower thread guide. 18 is another thread cutter. This cuts and holds the thread for the needle threading. It's really convenient to have cutters. Okay, and then the hook and the hook cover are this hook and hook cover. Okay, that's what this is. Okay, and you can see the feet. This is the wrench that you use to adjust the feet in here. Okay, so if you need to adjust that to get your machine stable, you use this little wrench. Okay, so that takes care of the feet. Now we're going to look at the right side and the rear of the machine. Okay, so from the right side, there is a touch pen holder. And in my little accessory box, I must have the little touch pen. So this is the touch pen, and it goes right here. So I'm just going to put that there so I don't lose it. All right, and from the back you can see it, the touch pen holder right there. All right, so that's number 1 from the side and rear view. There is a USB 2 port, and that is right here. There's also a USB port for computer, which is right underneath it. That's how you can import, export patterns, and that's this bigger hole right here. And the cool thing is they give you the cable that you need to insert into there. This larger part goes right in here like this. Okay, and then it's got a USB for your computer. So this comes with the machine, so you don't have to worry about having that. All right, and then the LCD angle button, you can press and change the angle of the operation panel. And then it says do not change the angle of the panel without pressing the button. So this button right here is what you press, and then I can move this like this to get it to be a comfortable angle to view and work on. Okay, so that's kind of cool. All right, then I'm going to turn the machine around to the back. You have the power cord plug and the on-off switch. This is the hand wheel. Normally that's on the side of your machine, but it's in the back. And basically you always want to make sure you turn the hand wheel counterclockwise. So we're going to turn it this way. Okay, if we turn it. All right, counterclockwise. And then also this right here is a vent. You don't want to cover that up because that helps keep your machine cool. Okay, that's another important feature in the back. All right, so now the machine is all set up. I've put on the frame holder. I've attached the support for the thread stand. Let's plug in the machine and turn it on so we can see the operation panel. I'm super excited to see what this looks like. All right, I've got it plugged in. Let's turn it on and see what that screen looks like. This is super exciting. All right, there's a little bit of information about turning the hand wheel and adding some oil to the hook. All right, so let's look at the buttons on the bottom of the operation panel. The first one is the stop start embroidery button, and it's red right now. That means you cannot start embroidering. When it's flashing green, you can start embroidering. Then while it's lit green, that means it is embroidering. And if it's off, the machine is turned off. So that's what that is. This is your needle up and down button, scissors to cut your threads, and there's also a needle threader that's very cool. We'll be getting into that next week. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and touch the screen. Okay, so it's going to move the carrier into position. And I just want to mention this other thing right here. There's a little speaker, so if it makes bells and whistles and noises, you can hear them. All right, and so basically this is your main menu. That's all I'm going to show you today because I will get into this deeper next week when we do the embroidery tutorial. right, well, that was super exciting. I have to tell you, this machine has been in my studio since Monday, so it's almost been here a week. And I didn't want to play with it until I had the time to share it with you and show you how to set it up, take all the packaging off and so on and so forth. So now that it's all set up, I'm going to start playing with it. I'm super excited. Um, I hope you enjoyed this kickoff episode of the Brother PRS 100 Persona Embroidery Series. If you have any questions or comments about setting it up or about the stand or any of the accessories, please let me know and I will help you. And join me next week, because next week we are going to be starting on page 23, which is the embroidering tutorial in the manual. So join me for that next week. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and thank you for watching.